The topic for this week is knowledge. When we talk about the knowledge, we want to talk about the knowledge of the Buddha nature. It depends on how you detach yourself from your own knowledge, your own thoughts. You can be in different levels of practicing. So even though we have different levels of knowledge, it's a different attachment to the knowledge. The ultimate knowledge is detaching yourself from knowledge. If you understand the meanings of knowledge, you always detach yourself from knowledge. So all the knowledge is just a means for you to go back to your practice. So in the sutra, Thich Minh Ngoc is a bodhisattva who said knowledge is the root of ignorance. That's why you don't attach yourself to knowledge. Only the knowledge when you get enlightenment, the knowledge is known as the knowledge of the Buddha nature. However, you still practice to detach yourself from all the knowledge. When you're detaching yourself from the knowledge, that is the real knowledge that you achieve in practicing. When the Buddha gave you a lecture, it's just the way he's explaining the way of practicing. It's not giving you the knowledge that you can attach to. So don't run after those knowledge. Don't run after those words, but just come back to the practice so you can detach yourself from those. So in the sutra, once again, all the patriarchs also use the words of the Buddha to practice. So you can go back to your Buddha nature. The real wisdom of the Buddha nature is detaching yourself from all the knowledge. So when you ask questions, creating doubt, the doubt will really get you into the state of mind that detaching yourself from all knowledge. Any thoughts arising during your practice, those are the knowledge. Don't attach yourself to those thoughts. It's hard to realize that you are attaching to the knowledge, except practicing. So the words from the Buddha, from the patriarch, are only the way to remind you to go back to your practice. So don't attach yourself to those words. When you attach yourself to those words, you attach yourself to the knowledge creating by your mind. So that's the topic of this week, to help you to believe in your practice more and go on the right path. So you can detach yourself from all the knowledge during practicing. If you have any questions right now, you can raise your hand and the host will unmute and let you ask the questions. Questions from a practitioner. When you show us the way to practice, you have to ask a question clearly and know that you ask a question clearly. However, because of the habit that we had, usually when we ask questions, we don't feel like we have any doubt. So all the knowing about the practice interfered with the practice that you've been doing. When the thoughts arising in your mind, it interfered with your practice. Could you please give us some words of encouragement so we can be better in our practice? So our masters or the patriarch is always ask us to ask a question clearly, slowly, in your practice. However, when you practice, all the habits that we've been having always interfere with our practice. And we usually run after our habit and forget about our practice. So when you run after the old habit or your own self, that means you run after the knowledge. So when you practice, you just ask the questions, raising doubts, and that's all you need to do. And that's all you have to do in order to believe in yourself. Make your practice as a priority. Always practice in all situations. Don't pay attention to the habit. But when you realize that you go forget your practice, forget asking the questions, go back and ask the question clearly. So you don't attach yourself to the knowledge. The doubt will automatically detach yourself from all those thoughts for you. Running after the knowledge is attaching yourself to the ignorance. All those words from the Buddha, from the patriarch that you have known are just the knowledge. You have to go back to the practice in order to experience the real meanings behind those words. It's just like a storm coming toward your practice. Those are the thoughts that come toward your practice. But in order to be in stillness, when all those storm from the thoughts going towards you, you have to go back to asking the question clearly and raising doubt. That's the only way that can help you to be still in the storm of thinking created by your mind. So the practice, the Huato, will help you to detach yourself from all those thoughts. So during the practice, focus on asking the question clearly, slowly. You will gain the doubt eventually. It's just like when you walk from one point to another, you might see everything surrounding you at the beginning, but eventually, at first, when you pay attention to all those things surrounding you when you walk, you might see a lot of obstacles happening during your walking. So when you're practicing, you're still walking on the same same path. However, you don't pay attention to all things happening surrounding you. You still see all those happenings surrounding you, but you just keep going and don't pay attention to those. You don't run after all those happenings around you, which means you detach yourself from all those thoughts arising in your mind. So the doubt created by asking questions clearly will automatically sweep up all those thoughts for you. So if you attach yourself to any thoughts arising in your mind, that you're attaching yourself from the knowledge. So when you're attaching yourself to those knowledge, you will forget about your practice. In fact, your Buddha nature has enough. Everything's already there. When you reach the Buddha natures, you will see everything. You will realize everything. Have enough. You don't have to use the thoughts or run after the thoughts in order to achieve anything. In fact, you will detach yourself from all those thoughts arising in your head. That's why the topic of this week is to help you to go back to your practice and don't run after the knowledge. The more you practice, the more you will believe in yourself, your own Buddha nature, and go back to the practice. Is that understandable? Yes, it is. Could you please give me some more encouragement? When we practicing, each practitioner, there's a lot of challenges. So all those challenges sometimes interfere with your practice a lot. And sometimes it's interfere with the vow, the original vow when you start the practice. Could you please give us more encouragement so we can understand the manners and go back to practice properly? It's better not to get the enlightenment when practicing, but going on the wrong path. It's better to realize that you go on the wrong path, and come back. So you can realize that's a mistake that you made and correct it. So most of the beginners in practice, sometimes they don't realize that they have made mistakes. That's why we have these discussions for them to ask questions. It's just like patients are taking medications. When they feel there's something wrong happening with their health, you come to the doctors and get medications. The doctor got to give you the right dose and the way you take the medication. You have to follow that instructions. Take the medications as the guidance from the doctor. When you feel there's something wrong, when you take the medications, you have to ask the questions. It's the same thing as you practice. Sometimes when you practice and you had any kind of problem or having questions, you must ask questions. So the master or the Dharma friends will help you to go back to the right path and continue to practice in the right path so you don't get lost in practicing. So in order to help others, you have to help yourself first. In order to go on the right practice, you have to follow the guidance from the Dharma, from the master who has shown you the way. So you have to detach yourself from all the habits, from all the knowledge, all thoughts arising in your head. Just because of the ignorance interfere with your practicing. When you practice, you will stay away from those ignorance and detach yourself from all those thoughts by asking questions and raising doubts. So the main thing is go back to your Wato. Ask a question clearly and raising doubt. Continue to do that in all situations, so you don't go on the wrong path. As the new practitioner, it's just like a new patient taking medication. You have to take the right dose in the right times and follow the guidance from the doctor. You asking questions and raising doubts as the beginning of your practice. Eventually, you will see that there's a change in your behavior, in your thinking, and eventually you will detach yourself from all those old habits that you've been having. And just like all those habits that you had, like gossip with friends or going out to eat or doing anything, you will replace all those habits by your practice. The more you practice, the more you get familiar with the taste of your practice. Is that understandable? It's running out of time. So